Well, 2 weeks ago, the LA Crips filed a trademark application for the Marathon Continues. Yes, one of the most prominent gangs in the 80s and 90s. They're out here owning their genius. So that leads again to the question, why aren't you? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of The Legal Tea. I am your host, LaKanya Murray, the owner of Off the Mark IP Solutions, where we help clients throughout the United States protect their brand, content, and ideas through trademarks, copyrights, and contracts. So we have a great podcast today. Let's get started. A few weeks ago, I was doing a trademark clearance search for a client, and I came upon this thing that I wasn't aware of. I noticed that a lot of adult film stars had trademarks, and if you follow me on social media, I posted something that said, hey, the adult film stars understand the value of protecting their brand. Why don't you? Then last week, someone shared an article, or I saw it. I can't remember how I came across it, but I saw that the LA Crips had filed a trademark for Nipsey Hussle's The Marathon Continues. Yes, that LA Crips, the gang organizations that was really prominent in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if they're still out there doing that type of work. Now, I take that back, because there was a press release back in September that says that essentially they're not doing that type of work, and they've transitioned and they're working with their rivals, the Bloods, to come up with an organization and programs to help prevent gang prevention. So, interesting fact, while I was doing research for this podcast and researching and looking up the Marathon Continues trademark, I noticed that the LA Crips have multiple trademarks that are at least pending. They have a trademark application for for one for the organization, the Crips, and they have another one for Coca-Cola, which is their drink. I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that they're out here protecting their genius. So during the clearance search that I told you about earlier with the adult film stars, I noticed too that the comedian that got her start on social media, Jess Hilarious, she has a couple of trademarks. I was attending a virtual summit for women of color, business entrepreneurs and course creators, women of color. And I noticed that while some of the speakers did not have trademarks, some of them did. And that makes me happy. There was a conversation that was had earlier, maybe like last week or the week before, where, and I cannot recall her name, but the founder of Because of Them We Can, she posted her trademark certificate and had a conversation about the importance and what that meant for her and what the process was like. And Lovey in the comments posted that we need to start a trademark challenge. And I am totally on board with that. We're going to call it the Own Your Genius Challenge, right? Because I have a couple of trademarks myself. And the reason I filed those trademark applications is because I wanted to control what I was building, how that was presented to the public, and who can do what with it. So I have a trademark for my trade name, which is Off the Mark. Then I have one for one of my taglines, which is Operate in Your Realm of Genius while we operate in ours. And then I have a pending trademark, all because I'm building things that I plan to have, that I want to be in existence well after I'm gone. And I want to be able to control and benefit that. So hey, listen, if you're listening to this podcast and you have a trademark, or if you have a copyright, or if you have a patent, let's do this. Let's let everyone know the importance of owning our genius, because intellectual property is where it's at. We got to stop complaining about people stealing stuff from us when we haven't taken the time to actually protect it. So let's get the word out. And one of the things I know is that people, they don't do it because they don't know. So let's do a challenge, right? You guys with me? Let's do a challenge. The Own Your Genius Challenge. What I want you to do is to post your certificate. Make sure you blur out all the sensitive information. And then let us know what owning your genius means to you. Use the hashtag Own Your Genius Challenge and tag me on social media at LaKanya Murray. That's how you can tag me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can tag me with that. Let's do that. Let's put the word out there. We have all these other challenges. Let's do this challenge. All right. Moving on, the marathon continues. This phrase, and we know this phrase because it was very recently, well, not very recently, but it's been associated with Nipsey Hussle, who recently passed away. He was murdered at the end of March. Nipsey was a member of the LA Crips, and I'm assuming that's why they felt that they had the authority to pick that up and grab and file that trademark. And another reason they did it, and I'm sure, is because, after he passed away, everybody, this Nipsey Hussle everything, his estate is probably going bananas trying to control his likeness and get that back so that people aren't benefiting off of his likeness. And people aren't using that phrase that he coined, right? So let's talk about this application. Let's talk about the Marathon Continues application. So first thing you want to know about this application is they filed this application without a lawyer. Somebody in the organization just filed the application themselves. They filed it as an in-use application, which means they are currently using the mark in commerce. And they filed it for several different services. Let's go through a couple of them. I'm going to read them. Let's see. So that's the second thing. It was filed under one class for a variety of different services, and those services include arranging and conducting youth sports programs, concert bookings, developing educational manuals for others in the field of community organization, gang prevention, and gang intervention, direction of making radio or television programs, entertainment in the nature of boxing contests, entertainment services in the nature of an ongoing reality-based television program, entertainment services in the nature of development, creation, production, distribution, and post-production of documentaries and films, entertainment services in the nature of live concert performances, still going, entertainment services in the nature of hip-hop artists, entertainment services, namely live appearances by a celebrity, entertainment services, namely downloadable ringtones, pre-recorded music, and graphic presented to mobile communications devices via a global network and wireless networks. Entertainment services, namely televised appearances by the Crips, community organizers, Bloods, community organizers, celebrities, comedians, singers, rappers, and dancers. Entertainment, namely live performances by a musical band, film editing, museums, music production services, music collection for use in television, film, radio, and video games, organizing community sports and cultural events, presentation of musical performances, providing information, news, commentary in the field of current events via internet, providing online computer games. Whew, right? That is a lot. So the first thing that we talked about is that they filed this application by themselves, and the second thing, they filed under all these services, right? And if we remember, I just told you they filed an in-use application. I can tell you right now, and then they submitted, the third thing I want to say is they submitted a specimen, and on that specimen, I'm assuming it was a screenshot from the website. I don't know where it came from, because when I went to the website, it wasn't there, but it said something about Marathon Continues documentary coming soon. So listen, this application has some challenges. It has some challenges. The first challenge I would say is I would not be surprised if there wasn't a conversation with Nipsey's estate or his business partners. I don't know who he's doing business with, but if there wasn't a conversation with them regarding the Marathon Continues, I wouldn't be surprised if there were objections to the registration of this trademark by the LA Crips, as far as them having the authority to claim ownership of it, right? That's thing number one. Number two is when you file an in-use application, you actually have to, these services that they're claiming have to actually already be in existence. And to my understanding, they're not. Even with the specimen that they submitted, it said coming soon. Coming soon is an indicator that it's not in commerce, that it is, they should have filed an intent to use application. And when you're filing these applications, you really want to be truthful on your applications. One, you're filing under perjury, right? You're filing under oath, is what I'm trying to say, that everything that you're filing is correct and true. And so when you file an in-use application, you're telling USPTO that, hey, I am using these. I am currently, as it stands right now, the day that I submit this application, using this mark as related to these services in interstate commerce. And if you're not, then your application is going to be void. One of the reasons that you really want to make sure that you're not just listing a bunch of services that you're not using in commerce is that now they're doing audits. They're taking random applications and pulling it and making the owners submit proof that they are using this mark in all these services. And what that means for you, let's say you are doing apparel, right? And right now you're doing t-shirts, but you plan on doing hats. Do not list hats as a list of services that you are currently using in commerce. If you're not selling hats, if you're just doing t-shirts and hoodies, then your trademark is for t-shirts and hoodies. All right, I'm trying to put you up on game. That's what's going on. If you want to file a trademark application later to add additional services, you can. Or if you want to file that application, if you want to and do two different uses, one for in use and one for intent to use, depending on the class, then you can. But don't lie on the application and say that you're using something right now when you're not, because your application can be void. And there are penalties for lying on your application. You can pay fines, and yeah, you can pay money or end up going to jail depending on how severe it is. Listen, there's a lesson in everything. And the lesson that we're getting from today's podcast is one, own your genius. If you're out here creating things, if you are building brands, if you're creating courses, if you're speaking, if you're writing, if you're making music, painting art, I don't care what it is, own your genius. So if someone infringes on your stuff, you have some sort of recourse. If someone decides that, hey, I want to use this song in a movie, they have to come to you and you can get paid. If someone says, hey, you know what, I like what your brand is doing, I want to partner with you, now they have to come with you instead of just taking your brand and pretending that there's a connection there that's not there. They have to come with you and you guys can negotiate what that looks like. If someone wants to use your course and they want to take what you're teaching and teach it to their group of people, they have to come to you and get a license. You have to own yourself. And then if they don't, then you can sue them. But with copyrights, you can't even sue them until you have it registered. And with trademarks, your damages aren't what they could be unless you have it registered. So you want to make sure that you are controlling your genius. It's time out for us to stop complaining about people stealing from us and taking from us when we have options. We have options, and now you know what those options are. Matter of fact, each one teach one. Take this podcast and share it so that the next person can know what their options are. Make sure that you're watching the YouTube channel so that you know more about these things. Make sure that you're scheduling consultations and speaking with attorneys. People will say, okay, LaKanya, I hear what you're saying. I want to own my genius, but I can't participate in the challenge because I don't have any trademarks. I don't have any copyrights. I don't have any patents or anything like that, but I want it. What do I do? Where do I start? Listen, there are two ways. That you can work with me in order to own your genius, protect your brand, your content, and your ideas. One, let me do it for you. That's what makes my heart happy. That is my realm of genius, is protecting your genius. That makes me happy. Doing your trademarks, your copyrights, your contracts, that's what makes me happy. If you're not in a position to have the work done for you, let me do it with you. And when I say do it with you is I have a course. It's called Launch Legally Blueprint. The first round is going now. By the time this podcast is up, enrollment will be closed, but we will have the doors open for the second round. And so make sure if you're interested, you send me an email. But with the Launch Legally Blueprint, I show you how to do these things. I show you how to do trademark clearance searches and teach you about classes so that you can file your trademark yourself if that's what you choose to do. I show you how to register copyrights. I give you the contracts you need in business in order to protect your genius and make sure that you're in the best position when you're working with third parties. All right? So those are the things. That's how you do it. You can either have someone do it for you or you can have someone do it with you. All right. So our three top takeaways from today, which we were getting into and I kind of got distracted, right? So our 3 top takeaways: 1, own your genius. Own your genius. If adult film stars, if gang organizations, and everybody else can own their genius, you can own yours. You said you're in business, why aren't you acting like it? Number 1. Number two, when you complete these applications, you're not just checking out boxes. Like the trademark application looks deceivingly simple, right? It's like, oh, name, I know my name. Oh, address, I know my address. But then it starts asking questions like, is this in 1A or 1B? And you're like, 1A, 1B. Okay, I like A, it's first, I'll check that. No, you need to know what that means. If you are not currently using the mark in commerce, do not file an in-use application. You need to file an intent to use application, which brings us to point number 3. If you file your application the wrong way, it will be void. It will be void. And yeah, that's tip number 3. And then I just had another thought as we were talking about that with the marathon continues. You know, we talked about in previous podcasts how using someone's likeness, you have to have their permission to use their likeness when the USPTO knows that a certain mark or something is associated with a celebrity, then they make that person give them proof in writing that they have that person's celebrity's permission to use their likeness. And I was just thinking, depending on whose desk this application lands on, if they are familiar with Nipsey Hussle and the marathon continues, they might ask for proof that they have permission to use his likeness, because that is associated with him. So, and you know, that can be a long shot, but that's just a thought that I had. So this is an application that we are going to keep our eye out and see what goes on. They just filed it May 16th. So with that being said, it won't even be assigned to an examining attorney until about August. So we'll keep an eye out on it and see what goes on with it, all right? Until next time, I want you to keep growing, keep building, keep creating, and at the end of it all, make sure that you're out there owning your genius.